Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. It's my unfortunate duty to say that I am joined in person by the one and only Keith Jackson.
At least it's honest.
That's it. How's it going?
All right. Yeah.
I'm not too bad, thanks.
I'm delighted to hear it.
We're also joined by Record Sports, Scott McDermott. I forgot your name there. Scott, how's it going?
Cheers, Daniel.
Insults getting thrown out all over the shop here.
We're also joined by our favourite referee, and he's technically not a referee anymore, but Des Roache. Des, how's it going?
That's high praise indeed. I'll take that.
Listen, Des,
yeah,
and
all good.
It's something
good.
I know.
Des, it's all in context. You've got to remember that. Favourite referees?
I was going to say, it's like being in the top of the relegation zone.
Well, listen, as long as you're not relegated, then you're still doing all right.
That's it. That's it exactly, Des. Was there something you wanted to say, Keith, before we...
No, I'm glad that Des is on. I think referees are quite topical at the minute.
Absolutely.
Certainly Mr. Coote down south, which is interesting. I have to tell you, I think I'm actually becoming more and more sympathetic with David Coote because, Daniel, let's get it right, no one likes being criticised, do they? And the poor guy's obviously come in for a bit of a pounding from Jurgen Klopp and, during the match against Burnley. And then he's obviously blown off some steam there. And let's just say emotions run high and he's reacted badly. It happens to the best, Daniel, I have to tell you. It was to my great surprise that I came into the studio earlier on today just to catch up on last night's show because I was busy at the time. It was great. Ross McCormick was on and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
However, it appears as if I may have been leaked.
Right.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Coote. I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sports' Scott McDermott and our special guest, Ross McCormick. Guys, how's it going?
Good, Daniel.
Ross, thanks very much for joining us. It's normally Scott and I and Keith Jackson, so I think we've definitely traded up.
I'm not sure about that. Whichever you feel.
That's right, Roscoe.
Definitely have. It's been brilliant, and everyone watching at home, thank you very much, and thanks for all of the comments.
Unbelievable.
Scott, I think we can both agree that this was definitely an improvement without Keith Jackson. I think we can.
Well,
Getting into age.
I was going to say, are you free every night?
Not a chance.
Scott, we could really...
Unbelievable.
So, Keith, what did you think of last night's Hotline Live that you were on?
The show was
And what did you think of Daniel Caw and Scott McDermott?
absolute.
And why would you say that?
Well, aside from me having to carry them every time we're in the studio, they've just had an absolute pop at me there, haven't they? I refuse to speak to anyone who's arrogant. I'll do my best for now not to speak to them. McCormick's all right. I quite like you, Roscoe, but oh my God, what a pair of
just like, I didn't know what was coming there. That's why I was really nervous. Our producer Angus outside obviously helped with that. But look, Scott, I mean, look.
Seriously, the pair of you have done me in.
Scott, we love Keith, don't we, really?
Oh, aye. I think there's a new career for you, Jacko. You're wasted on here. You should be on the telly or something.
Do you know, I'll surprise you with one now because I haven't told Keith this either, but we had this question sent in, Scott, sent in a couple of weeks ago, but neither of you were on the show. It's from Davy Quinn, who says, I want to know who Keith would save if he could only save one out of Daniel and Scott. If they're both trapped in a burning building or a sinking boat, he can only save one. No pressure.
I think at the back of your performance last night, the pair of you, listen, even when I liked you, I would save myself. That's who I'm saving.
You've got to say, Scott, we've probably deserved that after last night.
You're right.
Anyway, Des.
Now
that we've got my acting career finished.
We're sorry to have that domestic in front of you, Des, but we had to have that out.
No.
So yes, that was a reference, of course, to David Coote and his Jurgen Klopp tirade.
Well, on that, I mean, I know that was part of the acting, but you're saying you had kind of sympathy for him. In all seriousness, I actually do have sympathy for him.
Yeah.
I feel a bit bad for him. I know he was mega out of order, what he said, complete idiot. There's no defence.
It's like me sitting here in a TV studio with cameras pointing at me saying, I've been leaked.
I know.
The guy's sitting there with a phone in front of his face.
But who's the mate? Imagine your mate leaking it. Because whoever leaks it knows you're wrecking that guy's entire career. I mean, unless you disagree, Des, unless you think there's any way back for him.
Unfortunately, I can't see any way back for him. What he's done there is the most gross misconduct of stupidity.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's allowed a personal opinion. Yourself, me, Keith, Scott. A personal opinion should remain just that, a personal opinion. Now, I'm getting no doubts that I've went into a dressing room after the game and I've maybe said that player X has done my head in, or I've had a bad review or someone saying to myself, I'm going, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. But I've not been stupid of, and I certainly wouldn't be. Why is he allowing himself to be filmed?
Yeah.
That's the bit I can't get, because
not too sure how compass he is there.
I know, that's
well,
the
to
thing,
be fair, yes, there may be mitigating circumstances.
I'm not sure they're mitigating either, by the way.
No, I'm not sure that. Listen, I'm trying hard for the guy here. There may be other reasons why he's maybe not in full control of his faculties, but we don't know that for certain.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're allowing someone to record you that now, whether that was taken 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it may be, it was certainly during the lockdown season, that's going to get out. Someday, as long as that video is on somebody's phone, somebody's going to share it, somebody's going to pass it on, and it'll get out. And whoever has leaked it has obviously a very serious axe to grind with Daniel. I don't understand where he's coming from, how he can get away with it. I just don't see it ending up terribly well and terribly successful for a long period of time. I think we may potentially have seen the end of him. That's a sad state of affairs, unfortunately.
Des, have you seen anything comparable in your time in Scottish football? I mean, because I've seen Dermot Gallagher talking about it, saying that you know there is no precedent set here for how to deal with this because nothing like this has ever happened before. And I know social media, but you know, have you ever been in a situation where you felt that a former colleague, was speaking in an inappropriate manner in front of other people and were worried about that conduct? I
can wholeheartedly say, with my wife and 2 children in the house, in the house, I have never seen any of my refereeing colleagues conduct himself in that manner. Never speak so disparagingly about someone else and within football, whether that be a manager, a coach, another referee, a club official. No, I think that we hold ourselves to a high standard. What I would say, and I think the biggest thing that I'm certainly open to, I know Steve does as well, I don't mind people criticising my ability. That's fine. That's open for discussion. That's open for interpretation. By doing that, then you can then question my credibility. And as soon as you lose your credibility within football and within the general public who are paying to watch it, I'm really, really sorry, but it's a very hard place to come back from.
We had this one comment sitting from William Sloan, who's watching live on YouTube. He says, any thought that Coote is unique is for the fairies? There will be many that feel the same about other managers. Where he does stand alone is allowing himself to be recorded. No.
And this strikes to the point, and this is where I've got real sympathy, not for him, but for all the other referees out there. Look, how do we explain this? I'm sure Des will agree with us. From the perspective purely through the eyes of a football fan who is fanatical in that by the very makeup of the job that he's got to be a fan, it's impossible for them to imagine a scenario where if it was them, if they were out in the middle of the pitch, where they wouldn't show bias because that's it. They are a fan, a fanatic, and if they were thrown into a situation like that, they find it almost impossible. It warps the logic to understand how somebody can be out there and just calling honest decisions if it is their team that they support. And that's what has just happened here, has just made a really difficult job already, almost impossible for all the other officials, because now they're like that. See, I told you. I told you that guy had it in for us, and we were right, and we always were told, no, this is a figment of your imagination. But now every time a referee makes a decision, this is going to come back to bite them a little bit. Certainly for the next little while until it blows over. But that is why this has to be dealt with in the harshest of fashions. Am I right, Des?
Aye.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with you, Keith. I can't see... Could you imagine his first game? Now, they wouldn't certainly put him back into a Premier League game. you're alienating Liverpool straight away. So if you're alienating Liverpool, you need to alienate the teams that are competitive around them. Well, I'm sorry.
Yes, you do.
In the Premier League, you don't just have your top 6. You get your top 20 that are in the league. Every one of them can be competitive on their day down there. So you therefore have to look at an alternative route for them. If there is an alternative route for them, I wouldn't foresee it being on these shows.
They're full time days, aren't they, in England?
Are you saying he could be a candidate for? Well, because there seems to be a bit of a trail that's been blazed from the English Premier League up to Willie Collum's inner sanctum over the last wee while. Are you suggesting he might find redemption in Scotland?
Absolutely not. I would think that he would probably maybe have better redemption going over to that show that's going on in the jungle at this minute in time, because that's probably the only way he'll not see any newspapers for a while.
Do you know what? That's actually not a bad shit.
It's topical booking.
There's obviously Coote had a real issue with Jurgen Klopp. I just wonder, when you were officiating, as much as you might have had to bite your tongue a few times, did you have to, were there characters in the Scottish game that you just hated going to games with? No, you didn't like it. Did they have a bit of arrogance? Was there anybody that you were kind of dreading going to officiate because you knew you'd have to deal with?
Probably about 99% of the teams, because as soon as you give a decision, there's 50% of whoever you give a decision, there's 50% of the crowd and the supporters and the managers are going to disagree with you. I can honestly say no. You go to a game, let's be honest, see if you're a referee because you enjoy football. So if you enjoy football, you will no doubt support a team of some nature. See if you get to the level of a Category 1 referee, an international referee, see if you can be biased and have that thinking that, he's done me in the past and I'm going to make sure he doesn't have it today. And you can make a decision in a fraction of a second, then you're a far better judge and referee than I could ever be. I can honestly say it. There's been managers that are hard in your case, but I was always of the opinion that give me 15 minutes after the game and I'll talk to you. You don't need to like what I'm going to say, but I'll give you an honest opinion. And 99 times out of 100, it's usually shake hands, have a cup of tea, right? I'll see you the next time you're here, or whenever we cross paths again. And I would say, or I would like to think, that that's the same for every referee within Scotland. I've not felt that before.
I've got one for you, Des, right? Because after this came out, obviously Liverpool fans were going back through the back catalogue of decisions made by him, by that particular official, in matches involving Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp. And there were a few decisions in there, whether it was acting as VAR or whether it was match official at the time, that are really, really difficult, horrible to explain.
Arsenal handballing.
The Odegaard penalty kick. You're looking at it going, it is astonishing, that decision. I'm sure he was in VAR that day. And okay, you can understand where the match official might miss it at full speed, because I think Odegaard was falling down at the time. On slow motion in a VAR studio, it was the most... Even
with the most ambiguous handball rules we've now got, it's a handball.
That one's a handball and a penalty kick. Des, give me your interpretation of that, please. Is it as bad for you as it is for us?
I would certainly think that if he's acting as a VAR that day and he's making that proposal for the referee to come across, have a look at it to convince him to change his mind, I'm sorry, VAR's not there to re-referee it. The referee's the one who makes the final decision. And if, like you and Daniel and Scott and myself have seen these kind of clips where we don't see enough in it, then the referee is culpable for not having the own strength of his own character to make the decision not to accept it. Again, I think if you go down...
Hold on. Is my memory playing tricks on me? I thought the referee didn't give the penalty. VAR looked at it
and
over 3 or 4 and agreed with him. When it was one of those cases where absolutely 100% has to call the referee over.
Going for the title.
Maybe my memory's confused on that. That's what I thought. And
I'll need to have a clearer look at it. I'd need to have a clearer look at it. I've been working today. I've not had a chance to look through everything. My phone's been going nuclear all day when I got it, when I've picked back up.
That's just been me.
That's probably has been, yeah. It probably has just been you, Daniel. But if there is a clear decision that has to be made, then if the referee's not picked up and it is that clear and obvious, then Daniel has to do it. Mr. Coote has to do it.
I like the fact that you're blaming Daniel for everything. I know.
Well, he's below up my phone this afternoon. But I think if you're really harsh and you could probably look at a numerous number of referees and a team, and they're going to get things wrong. If you've got the time to dissect it and look at it, I really hope there's not. I would like to think there's not. He doesn't do himself any favours with the language he's using and the way that he's talking about Jurgen Klopp and talking about Liverpool. It's embarrassing from start to finish, and it's going to be an embarrassing end to his career, I think.
But see going back, Des and Keith, to what you were saying a moment ago about bias on the pitch and what have you. I would fully forgive Des any referee. Right, see if they're refereeing a game and one manager is effing and blinding and getting in your face, really aggressive, like a la Jurgen Klopp does at times, his jaw and all that. I'd fully forgive anyone not to be biased, but to have that at the back of their head.
Subconscious bias.
Aye, subconsciously, and be like, do you know what? He is a pain in the ass. I'm trying, they'd say a lot worse in their head.
Get the bleep machine out again.
Exactly. But I would have, I think that's just human nature. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'd actually be really surprised if.
But then the officials wouldn't be doing their job correctly. Isn't that big? Des, please come back to me on this, because I think I've been saying for ages, forever and a day, and sometimes you see something like this and you think, am I guilty of kind of overprotecting here? Because my view, and it has always been, referees are professional people. They're out there. You might not agree with every decision they make, but they're making them for all the right reasons. It's the integrity cannot be called into question, because once we start doing that, the game's gone. And I've always believed, like them, loathe them, agree with them, disagree with them, but they're out there with the best intentions. That's my view on it. I'm sure that's yours, Des. Have you ever seen anybody in Scottish football refereeing or official circles that gives you cause for concern, that you think, as a colleague, I'm not sure about him?
You don't need to name names, of course.
No, of course.
It's very easy. I don't need to name names. There is absolutely not one referee within Scottish football that I've ever come across, whether that be referee, assistant referee, who has been in there with any unconscious bias or a favouritism at any point in time to show a team. We've already seen what happened back when the referee strike occurred, because that again was questioning the credibility of the referees, and we had to import the foreign guys to come over.
The integrity is more important.
Yeah, and that's what I say. Question my ability. Absolutely. Question my ability. I might be the best referee in the world, the worst referee in the world. I shouldn't be doing junior games, under 12 games. But don't ever question my credibility or integrity. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong on my own merits, not because I thought that I want to do someone an injustice or to get them back. And I have certainly never seen any referee in Scotland, as I said, at any level, go out there. Within my professionalism and career, I have never seen any referee, and I would be extremely surprised and disappointed if that ever occurred up here.
Does the Scottish referees ever have to declare if they've supported a team in the past, or they've got they're favourable towards one team? You know what happens in England? They need to kind of state right away, and then those officials are kept away from that club's games. I take it that doesn't happen up here at any point.
No, Scott, it doesn't. The only thing we have to put in for regarding as a conflict of interest is if you've got family members or who are involved. So the quite obvious one that sticks out, Stephen McLean, his brother Brian, also used to play senior with Motherwell, etc. It actually went as far back to when I was coming through the ranks at junior level. I had a family member who was manager of Renfrew Juniors, so I would never get a Renfrew Juniors game, etc. As tiny as that may be, but it's nothing to do with, you're never asked to put out there your line of allegiance, team you support, or anything. No, it's purely conflict of interest regarding close family friends and family members. And say Stephen McLean's probably the most high profile of that.
Des, from the discussions that you've doubtless had with former colleagues, current referees, etc., is there a concern from what's happened here that there might be a backlash, and that the microscope's going to get focused even more forensically on the decision making of Scotland's referees on the back of this? Because I would imagine that there is an unwanted backlash from that, which is why I make the point. I think it's so unfair on all the other officials. I think it will heighten this frenzy of suspicion. That's why I'm so angry for it on behalf of the referees.
I think certainly not from the conversations that I had, that people up here are scared that they're going to get looked into any further or any deeper, because, as I've said earlier, there is nothing to hide, and that's the way it all should be. I think he's made...
I'm talking about decisions, Dave. Now,
yeah, but we get that
anyway.
anyway.
Decision that goes against, I know, but I think it's likely to heighten on the back of that.
I mean, every weekend, and you see the old things. I know we've been getting questioned about, obviously, some incidents that happened in the Kilmarnock game. I think we actually are probably more scrutinised up here than English guys, because of the way the big two in Glasgow are at this moment in time.
Yeah,
and
I think that's true.
If anything that happens up here, the other side of the coin's always looking for a reason, or it's always them, or it's always them. So I think that our guys are accustomed to it. If they're going to get any more scrutinised, then it would really be, I don't know how they can go anymore. But I think the Scottish referees are under far more scrutiny, because we tend to be a two-man league up here. In England, there's far more opportunities for other teams to win it. It's great seeing Aberdeen having a bit more involvement this year, and they're getting a wee bit more scrutiny with some of the decisions that are happening there. Our guys are under pressure every single week, so I don't have any worries about that.
Okay,
excellent.
Des, thank you. That was great insight.
Des, we really appreciate you coming on. I love having Des on, a resident referee expert. Thanks so much for joining us on the Hotline Live.
Just think, maybe the next time the record have got a 5-a-side game, and if I'm asked along, then I'll maybe look at a couple of decisions.
Des, in fact, on that, actually, before I let you go, Des, someone has written in saying to us.
Oh, no.
You're nearly away.
By the way, lads, this is from John Lyon, who's watching live on X. Des could play a bit when he was younger. If memory serves, he may have been in and around the Scotland school select. Maybe memory fading, but he could play the game. Is that your account, Des? Is that a fake net, or how's that?
I don't know, but John Lyon can come back again. I obviously played football when I was younger. I had spells training with Motherwell, Partick Thistle.
Wow.
I was captain of our sort of West Region school select team, etc. But for as much as football was always my sport, I ended up getting involved in athletics and went on to have a career in there. But I like to think I could.
So that was your first bad decision.
Well, it wasn't the last. Let's for say.
Well, listen, we badged you for the next five game days. That's that you'll be in our team. Excellent.
No worries at all.
I'll just stick to right the match.
I'll give you the whistle, Keith.
Des Roache, thanks so much for joining us on the Hotline Live. Cheers, Des.
No bother. Cheers, guys. Have a good night.
You too. And just to round off on the refereeing discussion, Stuart Rankin, he's agreeing with you, Keith, on Facebook. Refs have a hard enough job, and with this coming out, it just makes it even worse, which I think is fair. But just to reiterate, I don't know what you think, Scott. On a human level, the guy's been a complete idiot on so many levels. But a guy, his whole career's gone. His full-time job gone in an instance, because you don't get a second chance. That just makes me feel a bit sorry for him, because we've all said silly things after a few.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. You can get high in emotion.
And if you passed about anyone's phone, there is,
Well, let's not open that.
That particular clam.
Let the genie out the bottle here, Danny.
So you were going to say something, Scott?
No, I was just going to say it's the way of the world now. It's the curse of the camera phone, isn't it? I mean, there's going to be a wee element of sympathy, as you say. His career's up in smoke. Just as he'd hit the kind of top level, but a silly boy. And once you do that now, with social media and everything else, you're a goner. And I don't know how
how was I supposed to know when I came into this TV studio to watch last night's show that there was any danger that I might be videoed? Do you know what I mean? How are you meant to know these things?
Exactly.
Listen, Angus, our producer out there, he should...
Guys, get the video phone right in his face.
I know. There's no defence really, but I just guess I'm just a nicer guy, whatever. It's obviously International Week, right? But there's so little to talk about with Scotland, I think it's fair to say.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Out the road.
Now, you guys are going to the game in Poland, obviously, which would be a good little trip. You've been to Warsaw before, eh?
Many times.
And it's a good city.
It's a good city.
Absolutely, great. Well, despite it being International Week, though, there is a couple of bits and pieces on the domestic front I wanted to talk about. Scott, it's almost...
I tell you what, before you do that, I tell you what we should be delighted about at the International Week. The the noise around England right now,
Mhm.
call off after call off. You know,
Aye.
I don't know how many.
They've had 8
this week.
call-offs, aye.
You've had Harry Kane has actually come out today and had a bit of a pop
Mhm.
at his teammates for pulling out. Do you know what? Take a look at that, because it should send a wee shiver down your spine, the spine of the country, as a sort of reminder of where we were at not all that long ago.
Mhm.
That the attitude that they're displaying is outrageous. And we've got John McGinn coming back into the squad, Jack Hendry coming back, Scott McKenna coming back. All guys are desperate to play for Scotland. And that gives me a lot of encouragement going into the games ahead. I know the Nations League has been a sore one, bruising campaign, but you know, as we are preparing for the World Cup qualifiers, we've got a group of boys that are desperate to get out there, pull the shirt on, and go and play for the country and represent the country. The opposite seems to be the case down south right now, and I take some enjoyment out of that.
That's good, Jacko, because we spoke about this before. That was our fear, wasn't it, coming back for the Euros and getting into these Nations League games. We feared, we said it on here, that we thought Steve Clarke was maybe losing that a wee bit, losing the trust of the players, and we wondered over the next few camps whether people were going to start pulling out. But I think what you've just described there shows that there's been a turn again. The feel-good factor is coming back. Whatever it's been, has it been...
It's the performance level, it's the bravery, it's the way you set them up, Scott. It's
also,
as if they enjoy being part of that.
Yeah, but I also think it's... I know he's maybe not brought as many in as we thought, but see the introduction of Ben Doak. Ben Doak's energy and personality coming into the squad, and his ability more than anything else, I don't think you can underestimate. And I just wonder whether, as you say, the more experienced ones like your McGinns and McKenna's and people like that are just looking at Doak and looking at what else might be coming through and thinking, obviously the changing system as well, going back to a 4, which has seemed to have helped us. I think a few of them might be looking at that and think, you know what, there's actually a bit of optimism again, a bit of excitement getting into these qualifiers.
Well, why wouldn't there be when you've got Billy Gilmore and McTominay doing what they're doing in Naples? You've got, I know that Shea Adams has got another injury. You kind of don't want that to happen too many times, Shea, when there has been a finger of suspicion. But let's take it as genuine. There's so much to be excited about. And Ben Doak is just the latest development. And by the way, he's come into our setup when he's had, a handful of games. He's playing week in, week out at Middlesbrough.
I think even now he's only played 13 pro games.
But he's building up, and people are raving about his performance level at Middlesbrough. And the more that he gets that under his belt, the more ready he'll be to perform in a similar style. I don't think he's going to get phased with wearing the Scotland shirt. He's already proven that that's not going to be the case. But it's just, these things are all about experience, and right now he'll be a sponge because he's getting in, he's soaking in all the experience of playing regular top team football. It only bodes well for us.
Ryan Drew's written into the Hotline Live saying there have been signs in the past couple of matches that the squad is getting to grips with things again, and here's hoping it continues. I'm convinced that we're still on the right track with the manager, and these 2 games can give us a great bounce going into the World Cup qualifiers. So all feels a bit more positive regarding Scotland. I should probably mention, though, obviously the games are on YouTube again.
That's not so positive.
Well,
we say that, obviously.
Speaking live on YouTube.
On YouTube.
That's what I was going to say.
It's a tremendous innovation. I'm really pleased for YouTube. Really pleased that our national broadcaster decided to ignore it again.
Well, it is weird though, Scotty. I mean, I think the games last month were the first games this century to not be on telly. But I know we sound like a massive hypocrite sitting here on YouTube saying, I wish they weren't on YouTube. But it doesn't feel right to me. I mean, I guess it's just the changing landscape, isn't it?
It doesn't feel right. Strange. Me and Jacko spoke about it when we were in Zagreb, and Steve Clarke, if I remember right, Keith was actually quite strong on it at the time, saying he was really disappointed as well that that these players that we're talking about, you're talking about Gilmore, McTominay, McGinn, these Premier League stars, Serie A stars, these games weren't being shown on TV, and in this kind of day and age, listen, probably as this day and age that it's now, we're now showing games on YouTube, but it just doesn't feel right that none of the broadcasters have picked it up. And listen, I'm not sure what the numbers will be YouTube, Daniel, you might know.
I think
you
they're
might
saying.
know
I
better.
think they're saying the SFA's site got something like 1.5 million views over the 2 games. So I
Yeah.
think they see a commercial value in it.
Aye.
How does
But
that compare to TV audiences, though? Do you know
That
what I mean?
seems quite high to me.
I have
I have
no idea,
either.
Scott.
Aye, I know. 1.5 for 2 games sounds quite high to me, and I thought the production value was good as well. I don't think there was anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
It just feel, for instance, my granda last month was like, "Can't you watch a game? It's not on the telly." And I said, "It's YouTube." And he was like, "How did I do that?"
Yeah.
And I thought, aye.
So was I. I was doing the same thing.
Aye. Well, he's just 18 months older than you. Before we finish, guys, will we touch on a couple of domestic matters?
Uh-huh.
Scott, it's almost 2 years to the day since Rangers sacked Giovanni van Bronckhorst. It's the international break. I know we talk about Rangers a lot and Philip Clement a lot, but that actually got quite a strong response on our social media channels. Let me run through a couple for you. Amanda Burns, Celtic fan, and I like Gio. He had respect, a great friendship with Ange, and a lovely guy. Still say given time, he would be the right guy for them, and the way he was treated was a disgrace. Glad to say he looks much more happier now. Cameron Doherty, Rangers shamed themselves by not backing Gio. A very big mistake, in my opinion. And this one, Ronnie Sicci, as a Celtic fan, I was delighted when he was sacked. With a bit of patience, he would have done a great job at Rangers. I think they've gone downhill fast since. And I guess I'm bringing this up because we were talking off air, Keith, that, if Rangers were to make another change, the time would really be now.
Well, it's an international break, isn't it? So if you're having a wobble in terms of what you feel about the man that's in charge right now, then usually the international break is the time to act upon it.
A solid 2 weeks.
I've said my thing on Rangers in terms of if you don't have a fully functioning board, if the executive positions aren't filled, that becomes what would ordinarily in more normal circumstances be a hard decision to make, but easier.
Mm-hmm.
Easier than it is for Rangers right now because it's a caretaker chairman trying to spin plates, trying to fill all manner of positions. Does he really need to take that on board? Finding a new manager as well. So I think for all those reasons, Philip Clement will return to business as usual when the international break's over. But you say that with the caveat of knowing he's heading off towards the horizon and Celtic are waiting for him there at Hampden in the League Cup final, and that has difficulties written all over it.
I mean, because I think it was
potentially career-ending difficulties.
I think I'm right in saying it was November last year as well that Michael Beale was sacked.
Yeah.
So basically, Clement, it looks to me, obviously, that he is going to end that cycle of doom, for want of a better phrase, and get beyond
By
November.
scraping it into December.
But that's what I mean. But Scott, if all we're doing is waiting until they play Celtic twice and gets cuffed, what is the point? I just don't understand. I feel like we're delaying inevitable here.
Yeah, well, we've spoken about this before. That's where the Rangers board, they're either going to put a marker down here or not. They are desperate not to get rid of Philippe Clement for all the reasons we've spoken about. And because Beale was sacked when he was fewer points behind Celtic. So Clement is going to get longer. I'll stick up for him in the sense that when you look at Beale and Gio and Gerrard, Clement's had the fewest, the least resources of all of them, and that's not an excuse. That the problem he's got is Aberdeen, because if Rangers were sitting so many points behind Celtic in the league, but still sitting in second, people
20 points clear Aberdeen. Yeah.
Well, people would look at the circumstances and say, you know what, cutting budget, it's a transitional period, it's a new cycle. Always expected them to be behind Celtic if they could maybe go and win this cup final in a one-off game. They're progressing reasonably well in Europe. The big problem he's got is Aberdeen, because there is no excuse in the Rangers fans' eyes for sitting that many points behind Aberdeen, and that no one could have predicted that this has happened. So
it's certainly, Scott, it's certainly thrown yet another spanner into the works.
Yeah,
but forget Aberdeen. Say Rangers were sitting 10 points, not 10 points, because if they were sitting 10 points clear Aberdeen, then they'd be looking very good at the top end of the table. But if they were sitting in front of Aberdeen at this point, in normal circumstances, let's say Aberdeen were 12 points worse off than they are, and Rangers were in front of them, but still trailing Celtic. Do you honestly believe the Rangers fans would be happily turning up, watching what they're watching week in, week out, and saying, "That's all right, it's okay"? Because I don't believe that. I think they are 1 year into this. They're more than entitled to be asking for a definitive style of play, something entertaining. Yes, granted, there's been cutbacks. Rangers are still by far and away the second biggest spenders in the league. They've got every right after a year to want to see more. And regardless of what Aberdeen are doing, yes, I take your point that the fact that Aberdeen are doing it on a shoestring comparative heightens the kind of angst and anger about it. But I still think even if Aberdeen, just remove them from this, and Rangers fans are just going to watch that team a year into what was meant to be this, monumental rebuild, they're not fooled. They know what they're watching. And I'm afraid, regardless of circumstances at any other club, what they're watching simply is nowhere even remotely close to being good enough.
No, I don't disagree with you. All I'm saying is the Aberdeen factor means that any of the mitigating circumstances that Clement is trying to put out there are just falling in deaf ears, because as you said, they just go, they'll just look at Jimmy Tillene and say, well, how can he do it? Don't moan about budgets and lack of money. I think that's the problem, is that there's loads that Philippe Clement wants to say about what happened in the summer and what he's had to deal with and the decisions he had to make. But it doesn't matter when Aberdeen are so far ahead of you in the league. People aren't interested. That's a problem for him at the minute.
See, going back to Van Bronckhorst, though, it just seems as more time goes on, to me anyway, it seems a mad decision, that, because in 12 months, okay, the football might not have been great, and at the time it looked like maybe players weren't playing for him, but a lot of those players, I remember that his last game against St Mirren, Morelos walked about the park. He was disgraced that day. Really bad. But
that's what I was going to say. Sorry, I get what you're saying, but Gio, that last game, I was in Paisley that day. I mean, Morelos was a disgrace. Several others were as well, in terms of their effort and their desire and their hunger. And it's when you think back to that, that genuinely felt like the dressing room had gone in terms of Gio. I don't think we're at that stage with Clement. But
the point I was going to make, though, Scott, is that if you're going to, like the Rangers board are at the minute, stand firm and go, no, do you know what? We're sticking by this manager. It should have been him. Champions League qualification, a European final, and the Scottish Cup in 12 months. And okay, some players weren't playing for him, but that's when they should have went, do you know what? He's the manager and he's staying.
I tell you what, timing is everything in all aspects of life, and in particular in football management. And Van Bronckhorst came in, made the side better, took them to a Europa League final, but then lost so many of the key players there. And started the next season, he's qualified for the Champions League. Rangers hadn't been in the Champions League for a long time, so that was such a big thing. Yeah. But he was then armed with a water pistol going into a gunfight in the Champions League. The team that he had ended the previous season with had regressed, lost its key players. Morelos had entered into this phase of who knows what. And so there was also a whole raft of injuries, if you remember, some of the players that he was having to shoehorn into the side for the games against Liverpool, which were traumatic experiences. And I'm sorry, but, and this is why, obviously Celtic were never going to press the panic button where Brendan Rodgers was concerned, even despite that result, Dortmund. And it's good that they haven't done that. And maybe that's an example. Maybe you look at that and say, well, look, if you still get absolute confidence in the man and you're backing him still, then he can recover from a night like that and on the biggest stage in Europe. But I just felt from the Liverpool games were so traumatic for Van Bronckhorst, and the club was doing the memorial posters and all that of the 7-1. So I just felt at that point the whole thing was getting away, and it is easy to look back in retrospect and say with the benefit of hindsight, but at the time it felt bad.
like
It
it was
felt
over.
really bad.
P McLaughlin watching live on YouTube says GVB was sacked for a 7-point gap. Bad Champions League campaign and beatings of Celtic. Beale was sacked for a 7-point gap and beatings of Celtic. Clement's got a 9-point gap and still taking beatings of Celtic. One more defeat from a Ross County or a Dundee and he's sacked. Is that fair, Scott, before we move on from Rangers?
Could be. I mean, it does feel like they're one bad result away from it getting, becoming pretty toxic. But as I said before with Gio, I don't think we're at that stage with Clement. It feels like the performances are far from brilliant, but it doesn't feel like the players have given up on him. I mean, you look at the semi-final at Hampden, for instance, 1 down. It'd been easy for them to throw the towel in there, but by hook or by crook, they get back and had to battle to get themselves to a final. Even on Sundays, I say difficult game, performance I thought was poor. They still managed to get the 3 points and get over the line. So, I mean, it's far from perfect, but I do feel as if the squad haven't lost faith in the manager yet, and that's why at the minute the board are sticking by him. Whether that will change, as Jacko says, come December 15th, if they take a pasting off Celtic at Hampden in the cup final, then that's when it could get.
You genuinely think that group of players have faith in the manager, Scott, from what you've seen?
I think they're still with him, Jacko, at the moment. Aye.
Yeah.
I don't see. Why do you see guys? Do you think guys are throwing the towel in?
Yeah, I do.
Aye.
Yeah, and I think that I think if you look at the squad that has been there over the period, Clement's been in charge, one by one, systematically, all the big voices have been weeded out, and they've all left the club for a variety of different reasons. I think you've now got a captain who doesn't know if he's first choice or third choice right back from game to game, doesn't know if he's wearing the armband. I see signs of that all over the place, fractures all over it. And I totally get that a young boy like Conor Barngan, he's desperate to make an impression and do well. And nobody could accuse him, and he will be desperate because he was he was brought in by Clement. Diamondi maybe the same. Raskin has looked very unhappy at periods. He's now looking much more like himself because he's getting a game. But some of the biggest characters and some of the biggest talents have been moved and nudged out of that dressing room. And I know if I was a player and I thought, wait a minute, what's this guy doing? He's just falling out with this one. We've just lost him. We're trying to go out here and win football games, and one by one, our biggest characters and our best players are getting oxtered off the premises. I don't think I'd be happy about that. So, and then I looked, Scott, and I don't know if you were on one of the nights, the Motherwell semi-final, the camera panned to the bench after Tavernier and Dessers had come off. Now, by the way, I don't think they had any right to complain about anything, having get hooked off. But they certainly looked like they were complaining as they were sat together. And then 2 minutes later, Robin Proper didn't get sent on when Balogun pulled up injured. Casanova went on instead, and Robin Proper joins next to Tavernier and Dessers. As again, I will say repeatedly, no way of knowing for sure what these guys were talking about, but I've got a fairly good idea, and they didn't look happy. So I think you've got little splits and chasms all over that. That's what I see, Scott. But prepare to.
No, I'm not sure. Listen, maybe he is trying to get people at Tavernier out, guys that have been there.
I'm not sure Tavernier's got a big voice. I wonder why that. Maybe that's part of the reason that he stayed.
But
I think John Sterling's got a big voice. You can hardly get a game.
Yeah, but certainly the new breed, as you touched on, your Barons and your Jeffties and your Diamondis.
Yeah, they're desperate to make an impact.
I think these guys are playing for Clement, and that's probably the reason why they're still scraping results.
But these guys are these guys not downgrading the quality that has gone?
Oh, of course they are. But we know that. I mean, that's when you let John Lundstrom and Ryan Jack and Kmart Roof and people like that go out the door and you replace them.
Fall out with Todd Cantwell.
Exactly. So, but Clement said that himself. I mean, he knew there was going to be pain along the way, and this is it. It's just how long he can survive it, or can he survive it to get through the other end or come out the other end. And the defeats to Celtic are an issue because he's still not beat them yet. No, and many times have we spoke about Rangers managers having to get that win against Celtic. We spoke about Gio, who took a couple of downs off Celtic, lost to Ibrox when they were 1-0 up and should have won it. But the key thing for Gio at that time was winning the semi-final of the Scottish Cup in extra time, and that bought him so much time and encouraged so much favour with the supporters. Clement hasn't even had that yet. And as I say, if he loses again in the cup final, which, listen, at this moment in time, you need to expect that to happen. Then it's a big problem for them. The pressure just mounts and mounts, and it then goes back to the board. What's their thinking? How strong are they going to be in their backing of this guy? Because they gave him the new deal. They changed the goalposts in the summer. I'm convinced Clement could have gone at that point. He's hinted at that a couple of times now. They've put him in charge of this rebuild, this transition, because they believed he was the guy to get them through it and get out at the other end. It's just how much they're willing to suffer before they get there.
They also put James Bisgrove in charge of the rebuild of the Courtland Road stand. Didn't make it right.
Didn't go too well. Just before we finish, guys, I know time is really against us, but very quickly, I saw today doing the rounds that Troy Deeney was claiming that he was offered 40 grand a week to sign for Celtic in 2021 when he'd have been 33 at the time. Ange Postecoglou's second season. I'm not for a second calling him a liar. That doesn't quite ring true to me, though. He doesn't seem like an Ange player.
Doesn't fit the Celtic model.
Aye, as I say, 33 going on 34, 40 grand a week as well. Sounds a bit hefty. He says he turned it down and signed for Birmingham on 12 grand a week because he's closer to home. Again, doesn't quite ring true to me. But having said that, with you being a good player up here,
Troy Deeney would be a great player.
I think so.
I'm not sure how he would have fitted into Ange's system.
Aye, that's what I mean. I don't really see it.
But real good, robust centre forward. He's almost like the prototype for Cyril Dessers, just a bit better. Big, strong boy. Actually, really good natural goal scorer. Puts himself about. Yeah, he would have been Dessers before Dessers, a better version of.
He's a character as well. We like characters up here, don't we?
Yeah.
You should read his autobiography, Daniel. It's brilliant.
Is it good, Aye.
Brilliant. What a life he's had.
He went to prison, didn't he, at one point?
He did. Incredible that he managed to get to the Premier League, given where he came from in terms of his background, his upbringing and stuff. So you couldn't question his character. But I agree with you. Does not strike me as an Ange Postecoglou signing. So I'd be very surprised if that was the case.
Or fit into Celtic's business model. I can't remember the last time. It has happened where they've gone and brought in older players, more experienced, and paid top dollar. But that was a long time.
And even at that, they would be top tier. Thinking about like Roy Keane or whatever. Troy Deeney.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't see it, but there you go. And I definitely think
I'm calling him a liar now.
Yeah,
I
wouldn't like to call him a liar.
Exactly.
I'm an absolute tank, guys. You seem to forget that.
Sounds like.
Right, listen, on that note, that brings us to the end of tonight's raucous Hotline Live. That's what it's called, Hotline Live.
You're all over the shop now. This has been an ordeal for you tonight.
Jigsaw, I've gone to pieces. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all your comments on. We really appreciate it. Scott, it's always a pleasure.
Top man. Cheers, Daniel.
And thanks to Des Roache as well. And Keith, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back to do it all again tomorrow. Cheers.